Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 44 called Sarah. So guys, today's episode is sponsored by Prove, the first 5-minute at-home progesterone test. I'm sure all of you guys know that progesterone is super important when it comes to getting pregnant. Progesterone is what prepares the uterus to receive an embryo, and it needs to be elevated high enough for long enough to support proper implantation. In fact, low progesterone is the #1 cause of infertility, which brings us to Prove. What I love most about this product is that it was invented by Amy Beckley, a PhD scientist and infertility warrior whose journey lasted 3 long years and included 7 miscarriages. Amy suspected a simple progesterone deficiency in her own journey, and lo and behold, she was right. So her progesterone miracle is now 6 years old. You guys know I love female-founded companies, and you know I love products that can truly help all of you navigate this awful infertility road. So definitely check out Prove. The best part is that they're giving Infertile AF listeners, you guys, a special discount code. So go to ProveTest, which is spelled PROOVTEST.com, enter the code InfertileAF20, and you'll get 20% off your first order. Thank you, Prove. So you guys, I can barely contain my excitement about my guest today. Her name is Sarah Larson Levey. She's the CEO and co-founder of Y7 Studio, which is an incredible yoga studio that started in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which is the neighborhood that I live in, and I've lived in for the past 16 years. And I started going to Y7 when they opened, the year that they opened. So I've known Sarah and her husband Mason for a while, and it's been so fun to watch how Y7 has grown. And in 2018, Sarah was on Inc. magazine's cover as one of America's 500 fastest growing businesses. Not even fitness businesses, just businesses in general. So it's fucking amazing. She's worked so hard. She's remained down to earth, goofy, super cool the whole time. She used to literally check me in at the desk. And now she's the CEO of this company with 300 employees. So like I said, it was so cool to reconnect with her. She's a disruptor in the fitness industry. And you know we love disruptors on the show. But the reason, other than Y7, the reason that I'm talking to her today is because in 2019, Sarah wrote an Instagram post about the miscarriage that she had just suffered. And it was an amazing moment just for women in general and people who were sharing their stories. And since then, she's also written an article for Women's Health because she is newly pregnant. So she was looking back on the miscarriages and now she's pregnant, about 5 months along, actually. So I thought it was a good time to check in with her, talk about growing her business and also all that she's been through and why she wanted to share her story. So like I said, I adore her. She's such a great human being, just a good human. And I'm so grateful that she took the time out of her crazy schedule to be on my show. So Sarah, thank you so much. Katie Mason, the Y7 instructor that we talk about, Katie Mason Hampton, actually, who literally picked me up off the floor in yoga when I was going through my infertility struggle. We both love you, and you're going to get a shout out in this episode too. So thank you to Sarah Mason, Y7, and I am just so grateful. So without further ado, this is Sarah's infertility story. Sarah, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
I remember you from when I used to go to Y7 back in the early days.
The very, very beginning.
I think it was you guys opened in 2013,
2013, right? Yeah, summer.
And I remember you were in Williamsburg in this tiny loft space.
Yes.
And probably fit 6 or 8 mats. Yes.
I checked you in the hallway.
You checked me in, and your husband worked there as well.
Yes, he did.
And then I followed you to the bigger studio, and then the bigger studio, and now you guys have blown up. How many studios do you guys have now?
So we are at 13 studios right now,
okay.
And we are on the cusp of opening our first Chicago location.
Yeah. My hometown.
So that will be number 14. So
that's
we're
awesome.
So excited. We open the second week of March.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing to see how it's grown. And like, I was reading you were on the cover of Inc.
Yes.
magazine. And I was reading that you were like, it's so funny because I hate yoga. Like,
yeah,
you used to hate it.
Yeah.
And that's why, tell me about that and why you started what
Sure.
you did.
So this all actually started out of, my journey with yoga really started out of an injury. Okay. I pinched my sciatic nerve in 2012. And if for anyone who has had any sort of back injury, it's rough. Mm-hmm. I was on bed rest for a week. I didn't walk for a week. Mm-hmm. And yoga was really, yoga and Pilates was the only thing I could do. And as someone who was, 25, about to turn 26, I didn't have the money for Pilates and all of these little more expensive like reformer classes. And so yoga was really my only option. And I tried a ton of different studios around the city, and it just, none of them really clicked for me. I was in studios where it was really bright. There was a lot of mirrors. There were, they expected a specific type of person to walk through that door, and for you to immediately mold into the person who is supposed to embody this kind of studio. Right. And not that that's a bad, I think, what's so wonderful about yoga is that there's so many different types, and there's something for everybody. I just couldn't find what I resonated with. Yeah. And I left feeling classes a lot of times worse about myself than better.
That's not right.
Exactly. And the whole point of it is to lose yourself, to spend, an hour with yourself, connecting with your body, and, really opening up your mind. And I was staring at myself in the mirror, picking at every little thing I didn't like about myself, staring at other people, wanting to look like them, trying to emulate the teacher, and just, it took away from, the connection you're supposed to have with your own body. So, all of that was one big part of, having the dark room and the no mirrors, and, I took all the things that I was craving out of the yoga experience, and music for me, if you put on a good playlist for me, I could be doing something so boring. I could be building IKEA furniture and be like, oh, I did that in 10 minutes and it's been 2 hours. It's something that really forces me to kind of get out of my own head. And that's what we really did with Y7 is, we want you to lose yourself in the music and really start to connect with your body and really make it this true moving meditation. Right.
I remember the first class I went to, you played Jay-Z and Biggie, and I was like, oh, I'm never leaving the studio. It was so awesome.
Yeah, and it's fun, and we want it to be fun and lighthearted, and not everything has to be. I think we all deal with so much heavy shit anyways in our lives. This 1 hour doesn't have to be more judgment on, you not thinking about other things, or you only thinking positively, and, with all these guidelines, it's okay to kind of be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to say that when I talked about my story in the first episode of this podcast, I talked about Y7 because it was a huge part of when I was going through, between having my daughter, which, she's 10 now, so I had her with no problem. So I had secondary infertility. Okay. And between having my daughter and my son, it was a 3+ almost 4 year journey, for lack of a better word. I hate that word, and I found that when you know this too, and we'll talk about your story, but when you want a baby and you can't have one, it is one of the worst feelings in the world, right? It's you're so sad and it's so depressing and
it's so, I think, it's so out of our control.
Right. Yes. And that's what I was going to get back to.
Can do. So it becomes this frustrating cycle of I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Exactly.
Why?
Right. And that's what I was going to say is there's so much that's out of your control that I started really diving into yoga and Soul Cycle too, were my two things I would alternate. Because it was the one thing that I was if I can't control what's happening inside, I can at least control my health and how I feel about myself. And that was I just sunk my hooks into these Y7 classes. And Katie Mason, who was one of your OG instructors, she's just the best.
If you're listening, we love you.
She will be listening because she knows that you're doing this. And I told her, and she was like, she's the greatest. And there was one class, and sorry to repeat myself if anybody's heard the first episode, but where I had just had a miscarriage like the day before, 2 days before, and I went to yoga to help myself feel better, and I couldn't stop crying. And I was like in that dark room, and I remember I had grabbed, you were probably there, like you were probably at the studio that day.
I might have been there.
This is like 2014 probably.
Yeah.
And I had grabbed like a roll of toilet paper before I went in because I was like blowing my nose and I was like disrupting the class, and like it was like all quiet, and I would be like, and finally Katie came over and kneeled down and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." And then after class we talked and I told her what was going on, and she was just wonderful. So thank you for creating that space. I mean, it truly, like my son wouldn't be here if it weren't for those classes. I truly believe that that in tandem with so many other things, but it really was like a sanctuary for me.
So, I mean, there's nothing that makes me happier. Like,
Yeah.
I know it was a tough time for you, but the fact that you felt you could stay and cry, and that was a space that you could do that in means everything.
Yeah.
That's what we want to be. We want to be that super safe space where
it was.
you can come to, and like, no matter what you have going on in your life, you at least can come to your mat in this space and still keep some kind of normalcy, for a lack of a better word. Like, that's part of your routine, and the fact that you could still do that and didn't feel that you couldn't go because you were in,
No, it was like it was my life raft. I had to go. That was the only thing I wanted to do, was go. And then later on, like throughout my story, I ended up having 4 miscarriages total before doing IVF. But between, I think, the 3rd and the 4th, I did a private class with Katie. And I like sent her my playlist, and I sent something for her to read. Because you know how she used to read these like little poems and stuff throughout class. And I had all my girlfriends come, and it was so awesome. And it was just one of those points in like this whole shit show that I went through that was like a highlight. So again, like, that was your, you and Mason, like what you guys created. So, all right, anyway, back to you. But we love Katie. So I hope she comes back to New York soon.
I know.
We'll all go out.
I know. And wherever she goes, that will always be a target city on my list to open.
Good.
So,
okay, so tell me, I know that you and your husband met, you guys grew up together, right? You're from Michigan.
We're both from Michigan. We met at a house party.
Okay.
Our senior year of high school. Okay. In a mutual friend's basement.
Okay. Did you go to the same high school?
No, we went to different high schools.
Different high schools.
Yeah, so we met when we were 18.
Okay.
We were just friends, and we didn't start dating until after college.
Okay.
So I moved home. He went to University of Michigan.
Okay.
I went to Wisconsin, and I was just kind of.
Did you go to Madison?
I did.
I almost went there.
It's
a great school.
It's the best. So I came home after college just to kind of recalibrate, figure out what I wanted to do. Both my parents work in the car industry still, but there was huge recession then. My mom was actually not working. She took early retirement from one of the big 3 before she dove back into, another one. Okay. So it was very much tight in my household. So I had to find a job somewhere before they were like, we will help you move.
Right. Okay.
They're like, you need to have guaranteed income because we can't support you.
Right.
So I was home for about 6 months in 2009, and Mason and I started dating then. And when I made the choice to move to New York, he decided to come with me.
Okay. So what made you want to come to New York in the first place?
I had done an internship over one summer, and I loved it. I fell in love with the city. I thrive off of inconsistency and like excitement.
Okay.
Like, I don't like doing the same thing every day. I'm not like a big routine person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably the only person in fitness who's like, people ask me about my routine. I'm like, I don't have a good answer that people seek from, someone in wellness, because I don't thrive off of that. I love...
Well, you're a disruptor.
Yeah, I love
that's
doing the stuff I love.
Hence the reason you created something that nobody else was doing.
Yeah, thank you. And so I just love New York. I love the energy of the city. I love, I love the options.
Right.
I love that there's so much here. And a lot of my friends I went to college with were here too. So it was like a natural kind of like place that I at least wanted to try. If I didn't like it, always move.
Right.
No big deal.
Yeah. That's what my husband and I always say about New York, because like I said, we're from Chicago and we moved here for my job back in 2003. But we're always like, if like 9 times out of 10, the coolest thing that's happening like in the world is probably happening in New York.
Absolutely.
So it's like you said, you can walk down the street and every day can be totally different.
Totally different.
Is so awesome.
And there's so much opportunity everywhere. Like,
right.
I truly do not think I could have ever started this business and built this business if I was in any other city.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think like the Midwest, it would have been the same? Or?
I don't think it would have been the same, just
okay.
strictly because the kind of foot traffic we get in New York, the willingness of people to step out of their comfort zones in New York and try something new, where it's very easy. Like, you know, for my parents, just using them as an example, they go from, you know, point A, home, to B, work on the weekdays. And really, you know, because of traffic and rush hour, like they only do things in that pathway.
Right.
And it's hard to get people to deviate from that. And it's not because, you know, they're boring or not exciting. It's just because who wants to go 30 minutes outside of their way in traffic when, you know, the thing they normally do is like on the way home.
Totally.
So, you know, it's a little bit different in terms of just getting people to try things that are not in their path. And I think that can be really, really limiting. Whereas in New York, with the subways and the buses, it's like, you could do that. Like there's 10 different ways to get to like Herald Square or to Flatiron.
Exactly.
Like there's so many different ways. So it's just a really fun, it's a really fun place for discovery.
So were you guys living in Williamsburg when you started that studio?
Yeah, we were. We lived in Williamsburg for 6 years.
Where were you?
Broadway between Barry and Wythe, and we were there for like 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're in the city?
Now we're in the city, yeah. Okay. Once we got the office, it was like...
Yeah, totally.
We were here so late. We have
Right, your dogs on Instagram are so cute.
And we were like bad dog parents. We never saw them. It was like we've had such dog guilt, so now we have a little bit more flexibility.
Right. So after you guys got married, had you talked about having kids, or was it always something that you guys wanted to do?
It's always something we wanted to do. So I have such a fun family. So my dad is one of 9.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So do you have tons of cousins?
Tons of cousins. And my dad's the second oldest, and I'm the third oldest cousin.
Okay. So how many siblings do you have?
I have one younger sister.
Okay.
But I grew up like around babies. And like as I grew up, like someone was always having a baby. And so I've been changing diapers since I was like 5, since early, you know, I have friends who until they have their own kids are like, I've never changed a diaper. Where like I've been begging to, you know, when you're younger, I was like,
so you were always maternal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I nannied throughout high school, and like it's something I always wanted. And I adore my sister to pieces, but we're 4 years apart, and so we weren't even really that close until she graduated college, because we were never in the same phase of life together.
My sister and I are 4 years too.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
And it's not a bad thing. You're just, you know, when I was a senior in high school, she was in 8th grade.
Right.
Exactly. I was a freshman in college. She was a freshman in high school.
Totally.
So there was a big gap in between really what we were doing.
Right.
And I always, you know, envied people who had bigger families and just, you know, were able to really like hang out with their families. And that was like their fun, really like, you know, exciting.
I love that too. Like the chaos of like the holidays and everybody running around and like,
I love it.
I love that too. I love
like
that.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, when like, cause 90% of my dad's siblings live in Michigan.
Oh wow.
So it's like this huge, just like beautiful shit show of chaos. And it's like, it's so fun. And that's something that I always craved, you know, and so for me, like, it's always been in my mind that, like, it's not, you know, a great situation for New York. Like, I want 4 kids. Like, I want a little like, band. Yeah. So you know, my husband just has one half brother. Okay. So it's something that I think he really craved too. Yeah. And it's always something that we wanted. Yeah. And, you know, I think we realized, so I went off birth control when I was 30.
Okay. And what year did you guys get married?
We got married in 2014.
Okay.
Wait. Yes.
Okay.
We'll hit 6 years this March. Yes.
Okay.
So 2014 we got married in March. And then,
so you'd already opened Y7 because you opened that in 2013, right?
We were both still working full time then because it was still just a very much, that was when we were in the basement. Yeah. The basement studio.
Yeah.
So it's still just very much a side project. We both
Wait, was the basement one on Kent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to that one like for a while. That was there for a couple years, right?
We just relocated that one in September 2017.
I liked that one. Okay.
I know that one.
That was the one where I cried.
Yes.
With the toilet paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you probably had to go get, like, as you walked through the maze and, like, the weird...
Yes.
I know.
Into the back and that weird, like, there was those 2 bathrooms in the corner.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
What a time.
It was fine, though. It didn't matter, because once you got in the studio, it was like the class was the class. It didn't matter if I had to go through, like, some weird...
Yeah. So we got married in end of March 2014, and it was just kind of like... You know, we knew we didn't want to have kids right away. And then Y7 really took off.
Yeah.
And it was like this thing. And a year later, I almost exactly a year later, I left my job. He left his 3 months after me. And
wild.
We built this thing.
Yeah.
And, finally, we spent, at the end of 2016, we took private equity. We raised a private equity round.
Okay.
And then
Did you do the fundraising yourselves?
We did,
Did you? Like, you were having all the meetings and stuff? Oh, my God.
We did, which was like, Allison knows me. It's not, like, my natural habitat. I don't, like, thrive in that environment. So it's definitely an interesting process if anyone has the opportunity to go through it.
Yes. I'm sure you had some good business mentors and things that you could, like, call on, or were you guys kind of...
A little bit, but fitness was still kind of such a new thing, especially raising money for a boutique concept. It had only really ever been done for SoulCycle and Berries.
Did you ever talk to those ladies that started
a little bit.
Okay.
It's just a different model.
Yeah,
and
totally.
yoga is something that has been around far longer than cycling, far longer than any of these, cardio concepts. And there haven't been a ton who have raised. A lot of the yoga studios you see are more sort of either bigger box models that are franchised or, owned by a bigger corporate company. And is their kind of nod to yoga. But rarely ever has there been a case like this where it's, where we were at the time when we raised like a six studios, one in LA, and just, playing out this market and this huge boom of boutique fitness. And what it was, it's a lot of new territory. So
did you ever have like imposter syndrome where you're just like, how am I the CEO of this?
I still have it.
You do?
Are you kidding? I'm like,
because how many employees do you have now total?
Now we have, including my teachers and, all of my studio staff and everything like that, I'm around 300.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sarah, this is crazy. I'm so, nothing makes me happier to see, somebody like you who literally started from the bottom. Now you're here.
Yeah. Like below the bottom if we want to talk about being in a basement, but it's been really wild and it's been really fun, so after we raised money and, we spent 2017, all we did was relocate Williamsburg that year.
Right. Okay.
And I really spent 2017 building my leadership team.
Right. Okay.
And really just putting in an infrastructure to be able to expand and grow this business on a real level that has impact, and not just, the in-studio experience, but what does it mean if someone is buying our retail? What does it mean if someone's going to a retreat that we put on? What does it mean if someone is doing our trainings and things like that? Like, what are we standing for? Like, who do we want to be? And
well, it's become so much more than just, it's a community, and it's it's a vibe, and it's like an aesthetic. And I have your girlfriend collective leggings, those like compression leggings. I have like 3 pairs of those, and I love them so much. But it's like the attention to detail for your retail. Like you've got the best stuff that's very unique, and you don't find it anywhere else. It's not crazy expensive compared to a lot of the other places.
It's something we absolutely take into consideration. It's something we're always...
But I think that people can tell that, and that's probably what keeps people coming back. Like, it's different.
And it's, and there's a lot of different factors that go into it. It goes into the fact that, like, not all of our teachers may look like what you think typical yoga, when you type in yoga instructor and you see this beautiful, tall
Right.
very thin dancer-like woman. Like, we want to change that.
Yeah.
And really change the conversation of that yoga is for everybody.
Right. And even in all of your ads and your editorials and stuff, you've got real bodies and all shapes and sizes.
That goes back to our retail about like making sure that like everything we carry, every like performance brand we carry has inclusive sizing. So we're going up to like a triple XL. Like we have them like, they might not constantly be on the racks, but like we always have that and, in stock. And it's something that's really important to us that everyone makes sure that like, if you're wearing our stuff and you are in that, whether you're in that room or not, like you belong where you are.
Yes.
And that's like, I
love that.
so important.
Okay, now you're going to make me cry. Because that's so awesome.
Thank you.
It really is. And it's like, it's so important. So important.
Yeah. Back to babies.
Back to babies. So you...
so I built this team who is incredible. And then, September 2017, I was like, I'm 30. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I turned 30 at the very end of 2016.
Okay.
So I think that's right. Right? I'm 33 now. Yeah.
I'm very bad at math.
I don't know how old
I'll take your word for it.
Anyways, I went off birth control. I'd been on birth control for... oh my gosh, since I was 16 because I'm responsible.
Right.
And that's what they tell you to do.
Totally.
Yeah. So that it's our responsibility to prevent, young pregnancy if we want to do these other things. And so I'd been on birth control since I was 16. So, a good 14 years. And I, when I say they, I'm like, people, I don't know who they is, but like doctors, all these other things. Word, yeah. That, if you've been on birth control, it can take some time for it to flush out of your body. Totally. And so I was like, listen, like no hard timeline. Like I went off in September of 2017. I ended up getting pregnant in November, which was very fast. And I was like, oh shit.
Wow, I'm very fertile.
I'm pregnant. Right. We actually found out on my birthday.
Oh.
It would have been my 31st birthday. Okay. That I found out I was pregnant, and then I went in for my 8 week, and there was nothing there.
Oof. So how did that feel? I mean, if you don't mind, let's talk about that a little bit, because that was a complete shock to you, right? It wasn't shock. Like you had bleeding.
Nope,
you didn't have any
I had no bleeding.
Symptoms.
I had all the sickness all day. I'm not a good first trimester person. This is my third time around now. And from starting week 6, I am just vomiting all the time.
Right.
So I didn't know anyone who had ever had a miscarriage before.
Yeah. So what happened? They did the ultrasound. They did
the ultrasound. There was just nothing there.
So it was like an empty sac?
It was an empty sac. It probably was something that happened. It just didn't take, and I just did not bleed.
So sorry.
So,
do you remember, what did it feel like in that room? Did you lose it, or was it just
I did not lose it. I held it together until we left, and I lost it in the Uber.
Yeah.
On the way home.
Yeah.
I was so excited, and I completely lost it. They decided to wait to see if I would, because they can't really tell when, it could have been the day before, it could have, they wanted to see if I would naturally miscarry. I didn't, and I went back in, and my placenta kept growing.
Oof.
So they were like, we have to get this out. My uterus was everything was still growing, except there's nothing in me. So I did the DNC.
Yeah.
We ran a full genetic panel. It was a boy. And turned out to have trisomy 16.
Okay.
Which my doctor informed me was, listen, this accounts for 30-something% of miscarriages. You want it to miscarry. If it doesn't, and you do your panorama, we recommend that you terminate, because the quality of life once the baby's born is just a couple of hours, and it's tough.
Right.
So
in essence, your body is doing the right thing.
Your body knows,
which
is
wonderful, but it's also
wonderful, but it's also, you don't know how to feel. It's like you want to believe in all these things that people say and doctors say, trust your body, and you want to. I wanted to be like, you know what? Thank you, body. This is great. Instead, I was a complete hysterical fucking mess.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it because I felt so ashamed.
Really? Tell me about that. Why? You felt like you did something wrong, or like...
It's hard to not think that way. Even though there was a reason. It's a random it's a chromosomal disorder. It's not... It has nothing to do with my genetic history. It had nothing to do with Mason's genetic history. It's science, and for lack of a better phrase, it's a luck of the draw. It doesn't discriminate. Like, there's nothing in either of us that would have caused this. There's nothing that I could have done to prevent it.
Right.
There's no control, and I think that's the hard thing.
Right.
Because you want to latch on to a reason, right?
Totally, because it helps you cope and it helps you get through
like,
that.
Okay, if I maybe avoid this thing, then it won't happen again.
Exactly.
And it's this kind of avoidance technique that I was like, I'd never experienced, I think, such a lack of control over something.
Yeah.
And especially as someone who has said, I'm in health and wellness. This is what I do. So somebody who truly believes that you can control a lot of how you feel physically and mentally through, doing practices or like what you eat and what you put in your body. Totally. It was hard for me to kind of let this go and accept that, like, all right. Right. And this kind of thing. I don't, it's so hard to explain. And once you have been in this situation, you're like, there's no reason you can point to. That's it. Right. It just is. Right. And that's a tough thing to say.
And I think it's hard too, is when, so then that happens and then like, it's not going to happen for you. And then you're like, well, now what? And you're just kind of like, they let you go out into the world and you're like, but my life just took a complete left turn. Yeah. Like, you're totally shocked.
And I was like, and DNCs are not.
Oh, I never had to have one. I had 4 miscarriages, but they all like passed naturally because they were all really early.
Yeah, it's hard because it physically takes a toll on you. You're nothing in for 2 weeks. Right. Oh. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to get your period back. Yeah. So there is like a window of like, you can't try. And so a lot of times after a natural miscarriage, which you end up being very fertile after, and there's no kind of, you can just kind of, as terrible as it is, you can still continue without this kind of surgery trauma to your insides.
Totally. Yeah. Oh.
So there's that whole aspect too. It's like this whole physical thing you're also recovering from, where like, you have to take days off work, you're fully under, it's like a whole process. And like, and then you get the bill 4 months later and you're like, fuck. Right. Like, I've had 2 DNCs, so like I've spent upwards of $10,000 like for this thing that
not
like
having babies.
Like, thanks.
Yeah.
And getting nothing, but there's no reason. Like, it's not even like it was an exploratory surgery. We found this thing. Here's what we can do. Like, so needless to say, we took a break.
How was Mason doing? Because I know that you wrote in your women's health article, which was really wonderful.
Thank you.
You talked about how it was hard on you guys, and I've been really open about that too. It was very hard on my husband and I too.
It's not easy. There's, not even accounting for the fact that like, and I can only speak to my personal situation, but I was on birth control for 14 years. I was not on it for 2 months. Then I was pregnant for, 10 weeks. Right. And then I was not pregnant. So my hormones were like, I don't even know. Right. It's a lot. Yeah. And I lean anxious and like, so I don't even know how I was obviously not coping correctly. I was trying, and then like my friends in New York started to get pregnant.
Yes.
And that was...
Tell me about that. So is it like everybody's in that window where you start to have babies, right? And it's like, I'm sure you had the friend that we've all had that's like, oh my God, I wasn't even trying. And he just looked at me and I'm knocked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to convey how you feel to people who, it's not that I wasn't happy for my friends. I am fucking thrilled that they have never had to, the majority of my friends have never had to go through this.
Yes.
It's not about them and their happiness or like me not being happy. It's like, I don't know how to look at you and see what I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I want your life, I want your exact, it's just like, I want these things so badly, and there is nothing I can do to control it going in my favor.
Right.
And that's it. And it's just a hard place to sit. It was a hard place for me. So I'm like, am I like a bad person? That
right.
I can't,
I think a lot of people think
it's like,
that.
I was like, I'm awful.
Yeah. No, I think that's super duper common.
Yeah. And then it was like put into perspective for me where, and then and I didn't really talk about it. So I had a rough 2018.
Yeah.
We didn't try. And Mason, God bless him, I think he tried to be there for me, but like there is, it's different. Like I think the second a woman becomes pregnant and finds out she is, we become mothers.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. There is something growing inside of us. We are a home for another living being for 9 months. And completely fair for our husbands or our partners, it doesn't seem real because they can't feel it.
Totally.
They cannot feel like their bodies aren't changing. All they're doing is seeing you change.
Right.
And it doesn't hit them until they can hold and see him.
Yes.
And,
it's a perfect way to describe it.
And you're exactly not a good or a bad thing. It just is. There's no way that you can describe as someone who has, someone who's never broken their foot and you have a broken foot of what it feels. They just don't know because they're like, okay, I'm sure it hurts. That sucks. But it's
they
like,
have empathy for you, but they can't relate the exact same way.
And it's not a bad thing. It just is.
It just is what it is.
Different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he tried,
right.
But it wasn't, I didn't even know what I needed.
Right.
Like when we would be in therapy and our therapist like, what do you want from him? I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I have no idea what would make me feel better.
Right.
I don't know.
A baby.
Yeah. Like if this never happened, it would have been great.
Right.
Exactly. But unfortunately, you can't change what it is. So.
Right. Yeah. So had you told your family and everybody with the first one? So that's tricky
we were
too,
so
right?
Excited.
Yeah.
And luckily we hadn't blasted it to the world, but it was still really tough.
Yeah.
It was, and we don't really want to talk about, I guess it's not that I was didn't want, it was I don't have anything to say. There's nothing I can say. I don't have a reason. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just as I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, after I had my DNC in January of 2018, and we did not start deciding that we were ready to, we weren't going to actively when am I, ovulating that thing. I was like, all right, now you can just stop pulling out we're in college.
Right.
Now you can just stop pulling out. So I didn't want to go back on birth control because I didn't want to have that whole hormonal thing again. So he stopped. We pulled the goalie in essence. In November. I got pregnant in December.
Oh my gosh.
So yay.
Right.
Great. And then as soon as I found out, in probably the late January, they took me early at 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There was no fetal pull. So most likely they're it probably just didn't take. Right. So again, no bleeding.
Chemical pregnancy.
They were it could have been a blighted ovum. It could have been a chemical one.
Yes.
So they don't really know.
That's how mine was too. They were never able to diagnose.
Never able to tell.
But both of those terms were bandied about.
Yes, and you're kind of
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're okay.
Sure.
Again, nothing.
Right.
And they tell you, which is true. They're this. Listen, half the battle is getting pregnant. They're you can do that.
Right.
So it's good, and you can do it fairly quickly.
Right.
So. Yay me.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. That's a lot to go through in a short amount of time too. And such a roller coaster too.
Such a roller coaster, and I was very okay, let's not have any expectations with it. And they're okay, let's see, since you haven't had bleeding, let's wait another week and see what happens. Nothing. I went back in, still nothing there. but I kept growing once again.
Oh, God.
So I did another D&C.
Oof.
This one was a lot quicker. The recovery was a lot more easy because I was a lot earlier.
Okay.
So I had my D&C at like 11 weeks.
Okay.
The first one. And then at like 7.
Okay.
My second one. So it was, poor Mason thought like something happened to me on the table. Because I was like, they had me in the surgery room. 10 minutes later, the doctor came out and was like, Mason? He was like, what?
Oh, no.
And the first one was like 45 minutes. So he was like, hello?
Oh.
He was like, what just happened? He was like, I literally thought you died on the table. He's like, because it was so quick.
Right.
Because it was so much smaller and just less to collect.
Right. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So and that's kind of when I decided to talk about it.
Yeah.
In between my first one and my second one, 2 people that I'm friends with had miscarriages.
Okay.
And I started following your Instagram.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, and it just made me realize like the power of sharing.
Yes.
And the power of telling your story, and how even like to the storyteller, the person it happened to, like how every time I talked about it to someone who was really just willing to sit and listen and take it in, I felt better. I felt lighter. I felt like I didn't have to like hide, like if I was like sad about something, like pretend to be okay all the time. Yeah. And I thought it was important that, there were no answers for me. Like no one had answers. It was just like, try again. Right. And I was like, I've never and I didn't know because this was the only 2 times I've ever been pregnant. Right. I've never even had listen, I was a responsible kid. Like I'd never taken Plan B. Right. Like I never, because I was like, I know I want, I want to do this when I'm ready, and I, financially feel ready, and I, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I want to do it right. Yeah. And so for me to you spend so much of your life trying to prevent this thing. Right. And then you try and it doesn't happen. Yeah. It's just it's a complete mind fuck. Right.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot where your whole life you're taught if you have sex without protection, you're going to get knocked out. You will get pregnant. You're going to get pregnant. And the flip side is, or the reality is, it's not like
literally
that.
You have 3 days, best of luck.
3 days, if that. It's yeah. So it's we're hoping, I hope that sex education, my daughter's 10, she's going to start learning about this stuff now. There's so much that we didn't learn that I wish that they could kind of transform the whole sex ed and tell people.
I still am a little confused about menstruation. Right. I'm okay, so when is my eggs drop?
Yeah. No, somebody told me there was 3 phases of menstruation. I was like, I have never.
You're I thought it was literally
heard
one.
That. I'm 45, and I've never heard that in my life. I was like, what the fuck are you talking
excuse
about?
Me? My body is wild.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and I think after I told my story, the first time, and I got a really great response, and just after connecting with other members of the community, and also with the emergence, I think, of companies who are starting to talk more about fertility. Right. That it's such an important conversation to have. And
right. Can I say that you posted on Instagram, and I reread that right before I came to meet with you, and some of the things that you said were just so poignant and well said. And Katie Mason actually forwarded that to me, and she's like, you need to talk to her. And I was like, I'll wait till the time's right. I'm not going to swoop in now and be like, yo,
hey, what's up?
So I did wait, but I'm really glad that you did that. And I know that you helped a lot of people by just even opening up that door, you know?
And just knowing that, it's that first trimester, that whole, that, up to, 10, 12-week period, and if you miscarry in the first, 6 to 8, that shit is just science. Mm-hmm. There is nothing even if, I don't know, you just lay on your bed and do nothing, it could still not take.
Right, exactly.
You have to completely give up control, and it's a scary thing because it's happening to your body.
Right. Right.
And so we feel like we have all this control and should have all this control
Right.
because we can control what we eat. We can control, you know, how much we're working out and what muscles we're working on
Right.
and what we're strengthening. Even our
Sleeping
brains and sleep and all this
Right.
stuff. We're conditioned to be like, oh, you want to change something, you make the change. And this is the one thing where, you know, there are things you can do to help fertility, you know, boost it, but
Right.
sometimes it's just not.
And you never
right.
know. And
You
I've
never
talked to
know.
doctors too who are like, there's no prescription for this. Everybody's different. You know,
Everyone is
what works
different.
for somebody might not work for somebody else, and you know, all that stuff. So it's pretty wild. So you wrote about it for Women's Health, and then tell me you had some recent news.
Yeah, so I wrote about it, and you know, and then I was really frustrated that in 2019 I was like, what the fuck? Because the second I had tried to get pregnant the last 2 times, it happened within like 2 months.
Right.
This time I got my period back after 8 weeks, so I got it back end of April, or like mid-April.
Right.
And then my cycle changed in May.
Okay.
I have never not been regular. I am like a clock.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, did something happen with the DNC?
Oh.
And I was not getting pregnant. And I'm happy to report I am now.
Right. Yay.
5 months pregnant.
Yes.
I'm very, very excited, but it was hard to get to this place. And it's not like sexy. I was like, I'm fucking ovulating. I was like,
oh my God.
inside.
The
Let's
most
go.
unsexy thing.
And my husband was like, I'm sorry. He's like, this is like very weird for me.
It's so weird. It is the least
And
sexy
I was
thing.
like, who doesn't want to have sex with their, like, having meltdowns? And it's like, it's not that. But I'm having a meltdown. So I'm like, I don't have 2 days.
Right.
Like,
Oh
this
my
is the
God.
first time I had, like, really looked at when I'm ovulating. I'm like, oh my God.
It's so unsexy. I mean, there were points with Vince and me where, like, we couldn't do it. Because it was like, there was so much pressure.
So much.
And I'd be like, just stick it in.
Just,
And he was
what do you mean? You want this all
and
the
we're
time?
like both sweating
Yes.
and crying, and like I'm like looking at the clock, and like it was like a movie. Like it was like, it was so.
I'm looking back
And then
like,
he's
oh my
like,
gosh.
I'm out. I can't. Like it's not happening. And I
And
was
it's
like,
a lot. And it's one of those things where, like,
Right.
you know, like, I'm not afraid of aging. I'm not like, you know, time.
Yeah.
But it sucks because, like, that's the one thing that's always going to happen. We get older every single day. And, like, what they don't tell us when we're younger is that your eggs go away.
Right. I know.
Every single month you have less.
Totally.
And so it is like a race. You're like, I need to
I know.
now. And it's so confusing because, you know, so.
Yeah. So I think you were going to say earlier, you were alluding, and I interrupted you, to Kind Body. Because you hooked up with them, right? So tell me about that.
After, you know, a rough late summer
Right.
of not getting pregnant and forcing my husband upon me, which was not, you know, as great as that may sound to some, it was not fun for him. He was like, it's too much. So...
You know, Mason and Vince are going to hate us. So
I know.
Hopefully they don't listen to this.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Also, like,
We love you guys.
But, you know, we really sat down and I was like, I had to, like, kind of reevaluate. Like, it was hard. Again, this was, like, a tough thing on our relationship. And I was like, I'm not in a hurry. Like, I want to be a mother, but, like, I don't need it to happen tomorrow. But I know that I'm losing eggs. So I was like, and after the first DNC, we both ran full genetic panels on ourselves. Like, we did the whole thing.
Right.
We're fine. I was like, let me just explore what it would look like to freeze my eggs.
Yeah. Smart.
I am lucky enough that I'm in a position where I can. And that way, maybe I'll just do it. I'll have them in the back stock if I need them. And then it can take some pressure off of us.
Yeah.
And if it happens naturally, many blessings. And if it doesn't, at least I have this back.
Right.
Was my train of thought.
Completely.
So I went in...
many blessings.
Many blessings. Like, you know, but it helps knowing that you have something. You know, and then I'm not... I know I was like, let me get my fertility check because God forbid I only have 2 eggs.
Right.
Then we got to do this, you know, now.
Right.
I was like, but if I have some, you know, I was 32, so I just turned 33 in December. So, you know, I was like, I should be good. And then, you know, I still have a nice window of fertility and let's just see what happens. But I wanted to take that pressure off of us. Mason has since left Y7 and has a new startup.
Yes.
We both have a lot going on, right? And this was just an added thing. So it's a lot. So I went to Kind Body, mid-September. I got my fertility checked. 9 eggs on my right, 11 on my left. They're like, this is great. Good news. Mm-hmm. They're like, depending on your next cycle, we want to come in like a couple, I think it's either a couple days, a day or two after you finish your period, and we measure your uterus, your uterine wall. So basically they just kind of fill you up, take a sonogram, and, take some measurements. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I should, according to my calendar, be done like October 5th. I'll be going back in time. Yeah. And so I made the appointment, I went. But at this point, like since May, I hadn't been regular. My cycles had been going from 26 days to 32. Okay. So they were like, just make it whatever. We can still take measurements and get a good estimation wherever you are. So I go back in on the 5th of October. And I was like, I didn't get it yet. Like, I was just like, all right, like, let's still just like kind of, go up there and see what's going on. So I'm in the stirrups. I'm, ass basically off. I have she puts the camera through the vaginal sonogram and makes a weird face. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a uterus. Oh my God. She goes, well, we can't do this test today. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't have it. Something's missing. Something is gone. I was like, oh no, I have no uterus. The walls aren't there. And she turns the screen on and she goes, you are pregnant. I was like,
I just get the chills.
I was like this. I was like, oh.
Was Mason with you?
No, because I was just like, I was like, I'm gonna go back in for my thing. It'll take time.
Oh my God.
He was involved in this.
I would have been.
I was like, oh, okay. And and she turned the screen around, and at that point, and she's like, it looks like you're 5.5 weeks. And so all you see is the fetal pole. And I had never even seen that before. Yes. All I had ever seen was empty sacks.
Yes. Oh.
So this was like a big. I immediately started crying. I was like, I don't know. She was like, were you happy? I was like, no, I'm really happy. I've never seen this before. I don't know. Pole. I was like, I don't even know. I was like, I didn't know what a fetal pole was.
Right. I didn't know what that was
until literally like my last miscarriage. I was like, I don't know what's going on. Right. They were wonderful. They took me every single week for a sonogram.
Good.
Until I went for my first OB appointment. Okay. They took me every single week. So I would just know that it was actually.
That's so awesome.
Like, is it still there?
Right. I know. Because there's like, after you've been through what you've been through, you can't relax,
and
right?
And not having any inclination that it wasn't in there. Right. I didn't bleed. There was no like. Right. There was no like cramping spell. There was nothing. Right. It was just like, it's not there. Right. But you still have all the pregnancy symptoms. Yeah. So have fun.
Oh my God.
So here we are.
So 5 months, and you look great.
Thank you. I feel
feeling more confident. Yes. Or like, let's talk about, before we wrap it up quickly.
Sure.
Just like after, having 2 miscarriages, traumatic ones too. I mean, they're all traumatic, but how do you keep your mind like in a good space and not feel terrified? Because I don't think, somebody said to me, actually it was this woman that did the fertility tribe, and she has a saying that's like, once you have a positive pregnancy test, the scars of like infertility don't go away. No. So like you're never able to relax.
I heard the heartbeat yesterday, so I feel okay today.
Was it the first time you heard it?
No, okay. It was just, it's the first time I heard it in like 4 weeks. So it was like, last night was the first time I felt okay. So I felt movement. I was like, he's in there.
That's so good.
So, it's when you can't feel it.
I know. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's like you want to do that Tom Cruise thing and get your own sonogram. Yeah. Like Surrey.
Do I get my own? Like it's 100% in my Amazon search history. So don't think it's not there.
Do they sell them on Amazon?
Yes, and
Oh my
there's
God.
like these apps that you can
Can't
hear
you
the
just
heartbeat.
expense it and like,
Yeah, like, I don't
charge it to
know.
the company?
It's very nerve-wracking,
No, I know,
and you
yeah.
analyze every feeling.
Totally.
You know, I started to get like ligament pain. I was like, oh my God, is something happening?
Yeah.
I got like really cold one night, and I'm never cold.
Yeah.
And I run hot in general, and it was like, it's a sign of miscarriage. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
Don't
Mason was like,
start Googling things.
and I'm usually not a Googler, but like
Right.
this, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so, it's a constant line of like, I'm so excited, like looking to the future, but also like, okay, this is now the third time you're pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and this is further than you've ever gotten, but like, I feel really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Like every day I feel really, really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I had horrible morning sickness. I was like, I literally don't care as
Right.
long
Bring it
as
on.
I was like,
as long as that baby's still in there.
I was like, as long as, I was talking to one of my girlfriends who's a trainer, and she's training me now. She's like, do you have a birth plan? I was like, I don't care as long as it comes out healthy and in one piece. I don't care what happens to me at this point. I am just so thankful that I get this chance again. And like, it's gotten this far.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
that's where I am. It's a hard place to live. Like, I'm really lucky that I have like a job that I love, and I have like a great team, like great people around me. So like, I feel really good, but it's a hard place to be when,
It's scary.
some people just get pregnant and have easy pregnancies and are like doing their normal thing and running and doing all this. And I'm like, if I move the wrong way, will it not be? I know.
I think that if there's any sort of silver lining to having miscarriages or having a loss or going through infertility, it's that once you finally do get pregnant or once you finally do have the kids, you have this gratitude that, not that it's a competition, but that people that didn't go through it might not have.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I just have a greater appreciation for my body too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the resilience of people, just that I was in a very different place last year this time and the year before. So this time of year is like really weird for me because I was, just post miscarriage, January, February, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, it's a hard time.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that are happening in my life that are like the same.
Right.
Like the season's the same.
Exactly.
Like the cadence of the business.
Totally.
Our busy season is the same. So it's a lot of like.
Right. Yeah.
It's up.
But it's different.
It's different. Yes.
Yes.
So.
I'm so happy for you, and you're going to be the best
Thank
mom.
you. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having
Thank you for
me.
being so open.
Yeah.
Hey again, guys. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Sarah. Sarah, thank you again for being super candid about everything that you went through and all the feelings and all the feels. I know everybody listening really appreciates that. So thank you guys for listening. And I also want to give a special thank you to Jillian Telling, who is a friend of mine, who wrote this incredible article in people.com about Infertile AF and me and everything we're doing. So that was a huge moment for the podcast, for me professionally, and I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.